It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
Hey, how's it going everyone? Entropy here today with another video. Today we're going to be doing a long discussion on Limit Break 4, what is going to happen with the mechanic. I'm sure many of you who are interested in the game, who have played this game in terms of the TCG or other forms of media like the Switch games, Nintendo games, know that what comes after Limit Break 4 was Break Rights, which is still a Limit Break 4 mechanic. And then after that is Legion, and then after that is Strides, and so on and so forth. And a lot of you might be wondering, what is there left for Limit Break? Is there a reason why it got left in the dust? Here today, I'm just gonna talk a bit briefly about my thoughts on Limit Break 4, what future updates there will be. There will be support, I'll say that for sure, and why this is important. I think this is important. It's the evolution of the game. There are different types of support too that are given to Limit Break in order to help it, stay relevant. I won't say it's viable, but it definitely does help give you some options if you choose to consider these cards. So first up, let's just quickly define what Limit Break is, right? Limit Break is a skill that you get access to when you're at 4 or more damage. Of course, there are variations of that, like Ultimate Break, and in the future, there are going to be cards that don't have Limit Break at the beginning, but will gain Limit Break as you reach certain conditions. But most iconically, we have Blonde Easel. No, wrong franchise. Again, Blonde Easel. Yes, Blonde Easel is a very iconic card. In Zero, arguably much more dominant than in the TCG. Of course, back then, the original card costed Counterblast 2, it was a 10k base, and you didn't really have a choice, it's top call. But in the Zero game, it's Counterblast 1, and it's check top 4, so you have a lot more choices with this card. And so definitely made it a lot more viable. But regardless of that, one thing that people noticed was with Limit Break skills, you could damage deny, especially with how Sentinels worked. As long as you had a critical on your Vanguard, if your opponent's at 3 damage, your MOB attacks, for example, your opponent will either take the damage, put them to 5, so you can finish them off easily next turn, or they will proc their Sentinel, and then your turn would end, and then the Gold Paladin player would sit there and wait for next turn and hopefully be at 4. To circumvent that, obviously, we played self-damagers. And I made a video about how to use self-damagers more effectively. Do check out that video. I'll put that in the description down below. But I emphasize self-damager as the term. Please. Please understand, there are 2 main self-damagers in the Gold Paladin clan. The Grade 2, Master of Pain, 8k. On place, put a card from the top of the deck to the damage zone, face down. At the end of turn, prioritizing face down cards, put it back to the deck and shuffle. And of course, the Grade 1 variant, the Disciple of Pain, 6k in this case. Now, why do I emphasize that this is a self-damager? Because there's literally a Limit Break enabler that I will discuss later. But the general use of a self-damager is to enable Limit Break, which is why this misconception comes from. You generally want to put yourself to 4 or 5 damage to reach your Limit Break requirement, activate your really strong skills, and then put those borrowed damage back into the deck and proceed with the game. And this is definitely very valuable, especially even in modern Limit Break decks. If you see a lot of easels or a lot of Maelstorms on the ladder right now, they definitely will be playing upwards of at least 4 copies of self-damagers, 100%. And so right now, moving into the Break Ride era with set 9, what do we see? We see Break Rides, of course, an extension of the Limit Break 4 mechanic, but there's a slight caveat. For example, Liberator, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this card correctly. Liberator is a card that has more synergy with Easel, more so than Ganslot, of course. Doesn't require a Liberator name in this case. But with Break Rides, what it requires is that you have to be at 4 damage or more on your ride phase, right? With the traditional self-damagers, the 2 options that you could put yourself to 4 during your main phase. during your main phase. You can't call the Disciple of Pain on before you ride a unit. You can't do that, right? So what do we do with getting to 4 if that's the case? And this is where Game Studio steps in. Remember Halo Shield Mark?
It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
Well, in the past, Game Studio designed Sentinels to work 2 ways, right? First of all, to prevent a critical stray to put you to 1 damage off lethal, or to prevent lethal, right? If you're at 5, your opponent tries to attack you, and it's going to be the 6th damage, of course, and 6 damage is where you lose, your Sentinel will proc. If you're at 3, for example, your opponent at 2 crit Vanguard attacks you, it would put you to 5, 1 damage off lethal, then your Sentinel will proc. But as we discussed before, that was a strategy to beat decks like Easel, to beat decks like Vermilion, to disable Limit Break for these really strong effects. And so Game Studio brought out Halo Liberator Mark. Now you can pick this up in the Sentinel Metal Exchange, of course, as well as the Gacha. Test this out. This card, I kind of discussed in the PG Sentinel update video, but just briefly, this card's requirement went from 2 to 1. Instead of having the 2 requirements, it is now only when your opponent will deal lethal damage to you, the 6th damage, will it activate from hand. And what that means is your opponent cannot damage deny using criticals to you anymore to pull out PGs or put you to 5, threaten for that. What that means is that, unfortunately, that means that you might be more prone to being at 5 damage though. So there is a trade-off definitely, but what that means is then you will be at 5 damage or 4 damage during your main phase, your ride phase, and then you can proc your break ride skills. Now moving on from that, other than break ride, of course, that's a bit more unconventional limit break support because it doesn't really do anything by itself. We're also seeing a lot of limit break, grade 0s, grade 1, grade 2s, cards that have synergy with limit break. Not necessarily great, but it's still an option. For example, Holy Squire Eniday. Eniday is a Forerunner. That skill is when it boosts a grade 3 of that clan with limit break 4, you can put it into the soul and draw 1 card. So for decks that don't really have a lot of options with starters, Forerunners, with decks that might want that extra draw or soul, could be an option, could definitely be an option. We also see other cards that work with limit break 4, such as the Guiding Falcony, Counterblast 1, boosting unit with limit break 4 from the clan, then get +3, so it's a 9k booster. So that's very neat. That's definitely very neat. With future cards, we will also be seeing cards like 8+3s if your Vanguard's limit break 4, 8+3, and so on and so forth. So definitely limit break will still have its own synergy with its own keyword, and these skills will do not require your limit break to be active. So it could actually present more opportunities in the early game while your limit break finishes your opponent off in the mid to late game. And lastly, of course, the key piece for limit break support, the limit break enabler. Finally, we're going to present to you the Liberator Bright Unicorn, representing the Gold Paladin clan. Now, why do I mention this card? Remember when we talked about the Disciple of Pain and Master of Pain, these self-damagers, please, self-damagers, and how they did not synergize with break rides? They had a limitation, right? Well, this is the solution to all your problems. This card says, continuous, your Vanguard's limit break 4 is active even when you have 3 or less damage. What that means is, as long as this card is on the board, Easel can activate this skill even when you're at 3 or less damage. Your Blueberries and your break rides and all that good stuff can be active before you're at 4 damage. So what that means is, actually, when this card comes out, we could see a different approach to Sentinels again. We could see a different approach to crit pressure again. We could see a lot of options with limit break. So that is it for this video. I hope I clarified why I care so much about the terminology and the naming scheme of certain cards. Not necessarily because I like to nitpick, which I do, but But because, you know, in some cases, especially for beginners, they're literally going to be confused when you're juggling so many different terms and when things don't match up, right? Self-damaging does enable Limber Break, but there is a literal card that, you know, that frees that condition off. And so I think that we should be more careful with the words that we use in our community. I think that, especially with experienced players, especially with people down in the comment section below who have a lot of wisdom and experience with the game, previously or currently. I really like the sharing aspect. We gotta help each other out, but be careful with what, you know, card examples you use. Be careful with what terms you use and concepts you use. Sometimes we don't want to make it too difficult. Keep it stupid simple. Keep it simple stupid, whichever way you prefer. But definitely very valuable. If you look at my examples, generally I try to stick with one clan and pick a mainstreamish clan or clan that I'm comfortable with discussing, something that I know more about the ins and outs, and so that we can stay on the same page roughly. Does that mean that there are slight variations in the support that different clans get? Definitely, especially in terms of timing. You know, in the TCG, certain clans get released multiple times in a row until other clans. And so what that means is that definitely some clans will have to wait a bit more than others. But overall, very basic ideas. Limber Break 4 is here to stay. It will not die, and it will be still part of the game for a very long time. So that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the red subscribe button down below. Hit that like button if you liked it. Hit the dislike button if you disliked it, but please don't. It hurts my feelings. Comment down below what else, you know, what other mechanics do you think will get support? You know, like for example, some people are afraid of crafting Draconic Overlord, but actually Draconic Overlord might be more viable than you think. But anyways, that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.